Okay, so you don't have to worry about the 4.00 dimension here that's shown in your book. That's just to space the views on the page. Nor do you have to worry about the 3.90 dimension shown here. Please do space your views according to the 3.12 dimension, but we're not actually going to apply that on our drawing or detail sheet. Okay, we're only going to apply the dimensions that are pertinent to the production of the part. Okay, so you want to make sure to place these dimensions in paper space. Okay. Um, if you see a bold outline around your viewport, that means that you are in model space. Okay, and you can also see that you're in model space by looking down at the bottom of the screen and seeing model here. To get out of the viewport and work in paper space or the layout tab, you can double click outside the viewport. Notice it's no longer bold. Okay, also notice that this is now paper rather than model. You can toggle back and forth between the two also by clicking the button here. Okay, so now I know with our previous dimensioning exercise that we did it in model space, but remember we did that because of the datum of the object, and I feel like ordinate dimensioning is done better in model space. Almost all other dimensioning will be done in paper space though. Okay. So notice also that I created a cutting plane line. Okay, this is an English drawing, so the arrowhead has English measurements. The beginning of the arrowhead, of course, has a width of 0. The base of the arrowhead has a width of 0.1, and the length of the arrowhead is 0.175 to help you accurately recreate that. And remember, use a polyline for that. Okay, the command alias for polyline is PL. Okay. All right, so let's start applying dimensions. And the first thing I want to do, though, is I've noticed that most of the dimensions that we will be applying to the drawing have 3 decimal places. So let's make sure that our current dimension style that we're using reflects that. So I'm going to type in dim style, DIMSTYLE, and then enter. And that will bring us to the Dimension Style Manager. Your current dimension style should be decimal. You should see decimal highlighted here. If you don't, click on decimal and then select Modify. Okay. Under the Primary Units tab, change the Precision drop down to 3 decimal places if it isn't already. Okay, and then select OK. So our default now, when we apply a dimension, as you can see in the preview, our default dimension will have 3 decimal places, which is what a majority of what we will have. Okay, you can always do an override if you don't do it in the Dimension Style Manager, but you want to cut down on the amount of work that you have to do, so it's easier to make one setting change versus several overrides. Okay. So the first dimension I want to apply is the one I was talking about when you actually construct the part, this channel right here. They're showing a dimension of 1.20 in the book, and it just doesn't work out like that. So let's go ahead and apply that dimension. And I'll need an aligned dimension to do that. Okay, an aligned dimension measures will give us a perpendicular dimension across this area. So I want to type. By the way, all the dimension, if you like the buttons and the ribbon, if you go to the Annotate tab, the Dimensions panel, this will give you several dimensioning commands, but most of what we'll be doing right now is just in the drop-down box. You have linear, aligned, angular, so on and so forth, and I'll show you where these are as we go along, and I'll also show you the command aliases. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is dim aligned, so you can click on it here, or you can type DAL and then enter. That's also the shortcut command. Okay, make sure your object snaps are turned on, and we're going to go from the end point of this line perpendicular. Make sure you choose perpendicular object snap across to this line, and then we'll bring the dimension out. Okay, now the actual dimension after I drew this was 1.2363. Make sure you have your properties palette on too. You can see the actual measurement is this. Okay, we actually want this to display in 2 decimal places. Okay, this is one of the few 2 decimal place dimensions that we will place. So after you place the dimension, select it, right click and go to precision and change it to 2 decimal places. Now you can see mine is 1.24. I believe yours should be as well. And just to double check, let me check my inventor drawing as well. And it's also 1.24. And let me see what it is if I change this to 4 decimal places. 1.2363. So I got the same in AutoCAD and Inventor. I guess if I made a mistake, I made it in 2 different drawings. But so anyway, place your dimension like that. Okay. Now let's place this this hole dimension, and we want to use a diameter dimension. Okay. So you can select it here, or you can select type DDI and then enter in the command line. Both enters the dim diameter command. It asks me to select the arc or circle, so I'm going to select it on the edge of the circle there, and then place my dimension. Okay. Now, one thing you'll notice is that a center mark is attached to this dimension. Well, if you've already applied a center mark in model space, like I have, okay, then you have a center mark overlaying a center mark, and you no longer have that cross in the middle. Okay, now the cross should be 1/8 of an inch, by the way. So what I'm going to do, since I've already applied center marks, I'm just going to turn the center mark off. Okay, the one that was created using the dim diameter command. Okay, so on my properties palette, remember you can turn that on and off by typing properties followed by pressing enter on the keyboard. Next to center mark, I'm going to use the drop down here and select none. Okay, it keeps the dimension and the leader, but it gets rid of the center mark. Okay. Now, we're still not showing up like it's shown in the text, and that's what we want. So I need to double click on the dimension, and I want to add the 2x in front. That means 2 times. That means that this hole and this hole both have a diameter of 0.312. So 2x space. Okay. The cursor is actually in front of that the diameter symbol. Okay, and then click outside to finish the edit. All right, so let's add the angular dimension. Okay, hopefully you've already added your center mark. Okay, and we're going to use that horizontal line on the center mark and that angular line to place the angular dimension. So the angular dimension on the drop down is right here, or you can just type DIMANG. So I'll click the horizontal line on the center mark and then the angled line, and then bring the dimension over in this area. Okay, and I'm trying to place them exactly as shown in the book. All right, so let's place this dimension. Okay, now technically this is an arc, and typically arcs are dimensioned with a radii, a radius measurement, but this is dimensioned as a diameter, so we will dimension it the same way. So I'll click the diameter dimension from the drop down, or again you can type DDI followed by pressing enter on your keyboard. I'll place the dimension down here in this approximately same area as shown in the text. Again, it's placed a center mark that we don't need or want, so I'm going to click on the dimension. Next to center mark, I'm going to change that to none. And then let me double click on the dimension, and I'll type 2x in front of that as well. Alright, and moving right along. Alright, now I'm going to place a couple of linear dimensions. I'm going to place the 1.250 and 2.500. Now I'm actually going to place the 1.250 on the right side here because of the cutting plane line. No, you know, they didn't place the cutting plane line on their drawing, but we did. Okay, so let me do that now, and linear dimension is located here on the drop down, or you can type DLI. By the way, you need to make sure that you're on the dimension layer before you start placing these. I didn't say that. But I'm going to go from the end point here, and I'm actually going to click on the edge of the circle, and then go down and place the dimension, and you want to get the figure approximately in the middle. Now the reason I clicked on the edge of the circle, because if I would have made the first point in the center, let me redo this. And also, if I would have done it from the center here, but just doing it on one side is enough for the demonstration. You can see that the extension line from the dimension actually obscures part of the cross. Okay, we can't see the cross anymore.